thing was up in the tree. Something was up in that tree right there.
Hey, up on this place.
Right. What is that? What is that? Look up there.
Oh, yeah, right? Oh, right here. See it? I don't know what that was on that ridge line, but I swear I saw something. And my gut tells me that's the exact same thing that Bryce spotted on that fixed-wing drone.
Oh my God, it's moving.
From hearing strange screams in the dead of night and encountering bones and skulls in the dense forest, to being desperately evacuated during their search for Bigfoot, the Expedition Bigfoot crew will never forget the experience. And here is why. While Bigfoot captures the imagination of people and many of them attempt to make contact, the creature remains elusive. Unknown to those who want a hug from it, Bigfoot is an intelligent and dangerous predator that has been known to stalk and even kidnap and kill its prey. One of the first and most famous stories about Bigfoot being violent happened in Ape Canyon, Washington, in July 1924. A group of people who were mining said that they were attacked by several ape men who threw huge rocks at their cabin and tried to break into it. The miners had to shoot at the creatures in self-defense. One of the ape men was hurt, so the others ran away. In the same year, prospector Albert Ostman claimed he was abducted by a Bigfoot while camping near Toba Inlet, British Columbia. Ostman reported that he was carried in his sleeping bag to a remote location where he spent several days with a family of Bigfoots before escaping. But how creepy and dangerous can Bigfoot really be? The terrified locals. The Expedition Bigfoot crew faced several chilling and horror-like dangers while exploring Prince of Wales Island in Alaska. This was after the crew found strange evidence in California of a rare wolf species that should only exist in southeastern Alaska. The team journeyed to the island to follow the lead, believing that it would take them closer to finding Bigfoot.
Next few hours, Ronnie and I are trying to just track whatever made that kill last night. Haven't had much luck.
Whatever that was enormous.
On the island, mysterious screams terrify the locals. Maria and her partner, Bryce Johnson, upon arriving, talked to the locals on a fact-finding mission to narrow down their search on the island. They caught wind of an alarming story of an incident that had taken place a few weeks before they got there. The incident was so significant that there had been town meetings about it, and the locals were pretty scared by it. Maria and her partner spoke to about 20 people who were involved in the incident, but unfortunately for them, most of the victims did not want to go in front of the camera.
Out here, there was at least 20 guys, and we just started noticing things were moved.
Really?
We'd find things just gone, and then we'd go looking for them and find them down on the edge of the woods.
Lucky for them, they managed to get into contact with one man who agreed to give a detailed explanation of what they had encountered on the condition that his face would not be exposed. The guy who decided to talk to them had some mind-blowing claims. They met 30 miles from the nearest town on the island. There were no roads, meaning that people in the town could not come out there as fast in case of any call for help. This is how every horror story begins. The man explained to them what made him and his crew so shocked. "I'm a logger, and 2 weeks ago we were working out here. There were at least 20 guys, and we just started noticing things were moved. We'd find things just gone, and we'd go looking for them and find them down on the edge of the woods." When asked if a bear, something not so surprising to find on the island, could have taken it, the man confidently said that if it could have been a bear, there'd be some kind of tracks left behind. He told them that the weird thing about it was that no tracks or footprints were left behind. As if to add suspense to the story, the man told them, "That's what was really weird about it. And it happened a few times. It wasn't comfortable. And then shortly after that happened, that's when the sound started. Like an animal that we've never heard of in distress before. The closest I can come to it is a woman getting attacked." When asked what he thought was making the noises, the man acknowledged the presence of various animals around the area, but none of them made the kind of sounds they had heard. At this point, Maria and Bryce were interviewing him at the site where the loggers had made camp to store the tree trunks before the incident happened. The man then continued to tell them that the first time they heard the strange sounds, they seemed to be coming from deep in the woods. However, every night they got a little closer and a little louder, to the point that the locals were scared and felt a little helpless. The man claimed that the locals believed that something in the woods did not want them there, to the point that some of the locals evacuated the island. According to him, they felt like sitting ducks out there. They just didn't feel safe. When asked if they thought it was Bigfoot, the man's response fed the curiosity of the crew. He said, "We knew what it was, and people disappear out here. These things come and take them. That's why a lot of people don't like to talk about it." The man then continued by telling them that these beings are believed to be in the mountains, and when asked if he had ever been up there, he said that he would never dare because it is their territory. Backing the man's claims, the old folks of the town also believe that these beings live in the mountains, deep in the woods. The man ended the conversation by giving them a warning, saying, "If I were you, I would stay as far away as possible." Talk about the good guy in all horror movies. After the man's testimony, the crew went and got their gear to begin the expedition. To the crew, the island was the most target-rich environment for Bigfoot sightings ever, considering the stories of the terrified locals. The target was an area surrounding a remote mountain. According to Russell, Native American legends and stories of the target area talk about the existence of a supernatural being that is more aggressive and more hostile. Knowing this, the team had to be on high alert since there were other predators, including bears and wolves. That added an extra layer of danger to their expedition. Using the power of modern technology, the team was equipped with drones capable of detecting scents. They captured scents associated with Bigfoot, rotting flesh, wet dogs, and other scents that were irrelevant to their research. Using the data from the equipment, they got 2 targets of potential Bigfoot sightings, and the team split to cover more ground. Maria took the target with a lower altitude, and Russell took the target higher up the mountain. Strange screams and moans in the dead of night. While they took shelter at night due to a storm, Russell and his crew heard something huge closing in on them. Whatever was approaching them had a foul scent like the one described to them by the locals. In the thick darkness of the woods, Russell took a flashlight to investigate what was causing the noise. To his shock, he saw pieces of devoured flesh and skin hanging in the trees. The rustling continued, and they saw something huge moving. They ran towards it, and on the way, they found broken branches as if the creature had disappeared, and the rustling had stopped. On the lower side of the mountain, Maria detected the same foul smell as Russell, and while investigating the area, came upon a pile of bones. While talking to Russell through the radio, she said, "Oh my God, I just found a pile of bones right in front of me. A couple of skulls and other bits." This scared the hell out of Maria, as she had just come across a potential kill site for Bigfoot, something they had discovered in their previous Washington investigation. Using a handheld form of laser-guided technology, she continued to look for clues. The readings on her gear began to go haywire, a strong signal for a potential encounter with a creature. This scared the crew, so they decided to send a backup to her. Before they did, the foul smell came closer, but then slowly disappeared, and the readings on the scanner went back to normal. To them, this was a clear sign that they were in the presence of a creature they could not see. They felt taunted. They felt like prey being watched by a predator. It was as if something was playing with their food. By this time, one of the crew had already caught up with Maria. As they stood in the darkness of the woods, they heard strange screams not so far from where they were. "What was that? What the fuck?" Johnson exclaimed. These sounds were unlike any known animal and created a sense of immediate danger and fear in them. The creepy scream sounded like an animal in distress, coming from all directions. One consistent sound came from somewhere close to what they had mapped to be a source of water. The scream continued, and they suddenly heard rustling above them from the treetops, after which it stopped. At this point, they were sure that it was not a wolf or a bear. They also confirmed that the voices they were hearing sounded like a person in distress. "That sounded like a person yelling or something," Johnson exclaimed. The second scream they heard had a more human tone than the first one. This is precisely what the man had warned them about. Recalling this, Russell told his crew to stay alert and watch out for anything. This was the old site that the man and his team had abandoned. As they moved through the darkness with only flashlights being the source of light in the thick woods, the screams continued, and they still smelled the strange odor. Considering that the loggers had abandoned their construction site in fear of the creatures, Russell and his team seemed to be poking them by going deeper into the mountains. It's like they were right in their backyard in the middle of the night. Under Maria's suggestion, together with her crew, they walked down to the lake where the consistent scream came from. 2.5 miles east of Mireya's location, Russell was returning to the location where what appeared to be animal skin was hanging from a tree.
That's big. Listen to that. Holy crap. That is close. That smell. What in the hell is that? What the?
Reaching there, they were shocked to see that the piece of flesh was missing from the branches, and it was not on the ground. Whatever they had seen hanging was already gone. Using the images of the skin the cameraman had captured, they estimated the distance from the ground to where the piece of flesh had been to be 20 feet. There is no way a bear could have done this without breaking the pieces of branches as it climbed. It had to be something with the capability to move on top of the trees. Critically analyzing the situation, Russell admitted that they had been outmaneuvered by whatever took the piece of flesh, since it had to come back after they had chased after it. Yet, the creatures were stealthy like shadows and avoided direct light from the crew's flashlights. This made Russell conclude that the animal had intentionally led them away from what it had left behind, so as to come back and collect it. In shock, Russell said, "Something is thinking 10 steps ahead of us. I think there's more here than what I'm seeing tonight." On top of this, one of Russell's crew admitted to feeling like they were being watched by something. Feeling unsafe in the area, they had Zach, a gunman, accompany them the following day. Being experts, they knew that the previous night's rain meant soft ground, hence the probability of finding footprints. They decided to investigate the massive space, looking for physical evidence. But things wouldn't get as easy for them as they thought. The problem was that they spotted a lot of bear tracks all over the place, with nothing closely resembling potential prints of Bigfoot. Zach explained to them that the many bear tracks were caused by bears who enjoy eating new growth as soon as the rains begin. This meant that there had been bears moving all over the place in search of food, but Zach assured them that they were safe during the day. Mireya admitted that this was a dangerous research project because, for the first time in their expeditions, they had armed guards with them. The crew had been in areas that had incredibly large bear populations, but Alaska was different. The bears were bigger, wilder, and not used to humans. This made them very unpredictable and much more dangerous. Considering that it was morning, the bears would definitely be coming out of their dens for an active day. Zach warned them that the bears would be hungry and things could get ugly very quickly upon encounter with one. Having the armed guards really changed the feel of the expedition, and even though they would be watching from behind the scenes, they were a constant reminder that the crew was in a dangerous zone. Driven by the purpose of going there to document an undocumented creature, they continued documenting regardless of the risk. Rock projectiles from unseen sources. At this point in the expedition, the crew realized that the island held a lot of secrets. The locals were very strict about who they spoke to about their history and did not appreciate talking to foreigners, making it hard for Russell and his crew to get information. This explains why nobody but one person was willing to talk about the incident of the loggers with the crew before. Knowing this, Johnson, part of Russell's crew, decided to go to the local bar to try to get people to tell him about their close encounters with Bigfoot. There, he met with a bartender who assured him that if he wanted to get information on multiple encounters, he had come to the right place. Asking around, Johnson was surprised to hear that most of the people knew about Bigfoot, and some had actually heard stories of people who encountered the creature. A lot of people talked about a creature throwing huge rocks at them, especially those who went close to the lake. One of them, a young man, claimed to have caught one of the rocks thrown at him by the creature. Another local told Johnson that the creature would also hit people with rocks in the head if they tried to get too close to the creature's territory. These stories not only took place in and around the area of their target zone, but they followed the pattern of Bigfoot behavior the crew had experienced in previous expeditions. To confirm the existence of this creature, some of the locals told Johnson that they had heard strange vocal voices like the ones they had heard the previous night.
I believe what we're looking at here is something completely different. These upside-down trees could be indicative of some sort of Bigfoot culture.
Strange tree structure. While most locals told Johnson of stuff that he already knew or had experienced, two men informed him of a behavior that he and his crew never knew about. One of them claimed to have spent a lot of time in the woods since he was a kid, and he was not the kind of guy who would get easily spooked. However, he told Johnson that there was a tree in the woods that had been stuffed in the ground upside down with its roots hanging like branches. He warned Johnson that the tree could be a marker for a sacred place and that he should watch out. Throughout their previous expeditions, the crew encountered tree structures and tree manipulation, but in Alaska, everything was different. Johnson recalled when Maria and Ronnie found a strange wooden shelter-like structure in a remote area of southeastern Kentucky. After surveying the scene, the two concluded that if the structure were man-made, whoever built it would have needed to pack a ladder up the mountain to reach high enough into the trees to secure the branches. Was this the Alaskan version of the tree structures they had encountered? This was something definitely worth looking into for the crew. The man agreed to tell Johnson where the mysterious tree was and warned him to be careful, as nobody, including him, had ever been there since rumors of people disappearing began. Adding to this, the man confessed that some of his native friends agreed with the fact that the island had a threatening feeling and was not welcoming, and that there was definitely something lurking in the woods. As Johnson interviewed the locals, Russell and Maria were in the woods, trying to locate possible prints. As they did, they encountered strange hairs hanging on the spikes of the Devil's Club plant. The hairs were lighter in color compared to what they had encountered as potential Bigfoot hair. Russell explained to Maria that there had been cases of creatures resembling a Yeti in the Himalayas that had white fur. This was a clue that the different regions they visited had different species of Bigfoot, and thus the different fur colors. It makes sense since even humans from different regions of the world have different skin colors. Could this be a mechanism for the Bigfoot species in Alaska to blend into the environment? Russell also noticed that the area where they got the white hairs was near the lake, hinting that this was a regular spot for them to come and drink water. Adding up the bones Maria had encountered the previous night and the screams near the lake, Russell and his crew realized that they were walking directly on Bigfoot's hunting grounds. Weird footprints. Despite it being daytime, the crew expressed feeling as afraid as they had been during the night, as Russell led them to the same spot where he had seen the hanging flesh. 6 feet up the same tree, he found traces of white hairs, as if the creature had climbed the tree. He collected samples to take to base camp, which would be used for DNA tests later. Close to the tree, Russell discovered a series of enormous footprints and drag marks. It was as if something was dragged. The size and depth of these prints indicated a creature of significant weight and height, adding to the team's anxiety about what might be lurking nearby. They followed the footprints to see where they would end up. Later that night, they used military-grade third-generation night vision tech for accuracy. Following the tracks, they realized that they were leading to a water source, a clear indication that they were on the hunting ground of the creature they were following. With the moon shining in the sky, they were clear targets for the creatures of the wild. In a daring attempt, Russell used LED lights to try and lure the creature towards them, because, at this point, it was clear that they could not catch up to it. At first, they did not observe anything, but after a few minutes, they heard consistent loud howls in the opposite direction of where he was standing. As they communicated with Maria through the radio, he heard rustling behind him. Afraid and trying to get a bit of distance, Russell moved closer to the shoreline as Maria remained in position to observe. Using a thermal camera, Maria observed something moving close to them in the water. Warning them, Russell and his crew approached the target, but all of a sudden, the heat signature from Maria's camera disappeared. Could these creatures be clever enough to hide from thermal cams? Russell recalls tales of the locals saying that they had seen Bigfoot swimming in the lake and even boarding boats. To him, this sounded exactly like the Kushtaka, a creature known in the Alaskan indigenous legends, a shape-shifting monster known for its unique screams and ability to possess people's minds. According to the legends, encountering the creature often led to death. As much as that was only a local legend, the crew had encountered the weird screams, the stealthy movement of the creature, the incident where it outsmarted them, and the bones. What more evidence did they need to know that they were in danger? The crew evacuates. As much as this was an expedition, it was a risky one because every minute in the woods posed the threat of being killed. If they were not to be killed by the violent bears or the wolves, the mythical creature talked of by the locals would surely get them. As the research went on, Russell and his crew faced a series of escalating dangers that ultimately led to their evacuation from the island. The team reported multiple instances of rocks being thrown at them, shadowy figures moving closer to their camp, and strange loud noises that seemed to be getting nearer every day. These encounters created a heightened sense of danger and urgency. Aside from that, the crew's electronic equipment began to fail more frequently and at critical moments. These failures left the team isolated and unable to document their findings or call for help if needed. On top of that, the constant stress from the encounters, combined with the harsh environmental conditions, began to affect the crew's health. Some members reported feeling unwell, experiencing extreme fatigue, and showing signs of psychological distress. These escalating dangers and the final intense encounter led to the crew's evacuation from Prince of Wales Island.